Joining us right now on NCW Live is our 12th District State Representative, Gary Condata, with the State House of Representatives. Gary, just finished our election. Looks like there's a new dynamic in the legislature.
Yeah, there sure is.
It looks like the Democrats have taken control of the Senate, and now they have control of the House and the governor's mansion. So like I say, it's a new dynamic, but what's that's going to mean to the session coming up in January?
Well, I don't think it'll have a huge effect on the short session. We were just there for a couple of days, and frankly, most of the reps on both sides of the aisle want to get in, get out. Mm-hmm. I don't think they will be doing a lot. There'll be some shuffling with the base and throwing a few bills out there, you know, but I think the real change will be in 2019 if we don't capture the House. If we don't pick up that other seat or two in the House, then you will see a big change in 2019. So not too concerned about the short session, but very concerned going forward.
Is there a trickle-down Trump effect on the Republican Party?
Well, there is in some areas. That's what's interesting. In some areas, it's a big plus. We took the 19th district because of Trump. Because he had so much support down there, which is typically a Democrat district. We won that district as well as he did. But then you go into the Sammamish Highlands, where this 45th district just was, and it's the opposite. There's definitely a drag factor there. So it just depends on if you're outside the Seattle realm, it's pretty good. But if you're anywhere near Seattle, yeah, you have some issues. So you know that's a bit of an issue. But we think that'll change by next year too.
Well, technically, the legislature is still in session because you don't have a capital budget, and I know that the Republicans in the Senate and in the House are holding out hope that some resolution to the Hearst ruling will be made before that's done.
Well, the good news is that negotiations are back on for Hearst. The bad news is the three first proposals that came out were worse than the last three we've got, and I think there was this feeling that now we control all three chambers, so you're going to do what we want you to do. That's not going to happen. Both caucuses took a vote. There are no votes for the capital budget in the Senate or the House, so we are still at a standstill. You have to remember the House didn't change. It's still 50 votes. And the fact is there will be no capital budget until that Hearst decision is solved and in a manner that is respectable to the rural communities, because it's a big, big deal.
Another issue that's still not resolved, at least in the eyes of the state Supreme Court, that's education and McCleary.
Well, that was, again, good news and bad news. The good news was they said the overall program was fine, that it did satisfy McCleary, that they think it'll work out just fine, but we didn't move fast enough. It was a timing issue, and they want another $1 billion. I don't know where we come up with another $1 billion, because no tax program put into place would do it in time. In other words, we'd be back on the original timeline even if we added the $1 billion they wanted. So the only way you could potentially do that is through the emergency rainy day fund, and guess what? That requires 60 votes. That's not going to happen. So I think I've talked to a couple of Democrat friends that are high up in the Democrat ranks over there, and they told me, well, you know, likely we'll just kind of walk past this. I think we're going to go through the session. We'll probably have some saber rattling, but in the end, I think we stick with the original program. The original program, the more we look at it, it looks like it will work. It's just going to take a few years.
Well, you know, you and I were both sitting out at my desk watching the arguments that were being made before the Supreme Court.
Yes.
And I was kind of struck, really, by the lack of knowledge that the Supreme Court justices have in the actual budget process and how the legislature works.
Well, we've made this argument since the beginning that they really are stepping over the bounds of what the courts are supposed to do. But beyond that, you're right. It was shocking to hear them say, well, can we add $2 or $3 billion? Can we add $1 billion? And the Attorney General's person said, look, it's a supplemental budget. We don't make a new budget here. We have a supplemental budget. So one of them said, well, can we get $1 billion? And he basically said, no, I don't think so. And so it was interesting to see that exchange. It's like, how much can we get? Mm-hmm. Well, it looks to me like you're not going to get a lot more than what we've already done, which is huge. So I think we're going to go status quo. But we'll see. You never know till you get there.
Well, according to the latest revenue estimates, you're going to have a little more money to work with next year, huh?
It looks pretty steady. We're not seeing the big increases that we did, but the initial feeling is that it's steady. And I think we're solid, which is good. I was concerned, but it looks pretty good. If there's a little money, we've got some holes to fill yet. You know, McCleary kind of took all the oxygen out of the room. There's Public Works Trust Fund and other things that need to be backfilled that have not been done.
Well, there are a lot of things that are going on statewide, and of course, what happens in Congress affects us here.
Yes.
The health care reform. it's kind of died in terms of legislation at the federal level. But here we are in another enrollment period. Apparently, we're seeing a big increase in the number of people that are applying for health care insurance through the Affordable Care Act. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the problem is now with the folks that are paying for it, the rates have gone to a point where many are considering whether they're going to pay those rates. I know a local agent has told me she's seeing people drop insurance at a rate like she's never seen because they just aren't willing to pay the amount of money with the high deductibles that are coming down. This problem has to be resolved. And I hold the Republicans responsible as much as the Democrats because neither one has come up with a solution. The solutions are out there, by the way. There's lots of good ideas, but nobody seems to have the ability to move those ideas forward. We've got to get out of this cycle. This current program is going to collapse. We're going to have more uninsured people next year than we had originally if we don't change something.
Right. Tax reform.
Yeah.
Looks like Congress is at least making some headway on tax reform. The Republican have passed it in the House. Senate committee has passed it now, and they're reconciling the two versions of that bill. What is that going to mean for Washington State? Because obviously we're going to lose our sales tax deduction on our income taxes if this thing goes forward.
Well, but if you look at the other side, the rate changes and the other provisions, actually we should do fine. There is concern. We haven't seen the final version. We don't know what it's going to be because they're still reconciling. But in the end, I think we'll have a package that works. And I think it'll be okay for Washington. I think from the business standpoint, it could be very okay for Washington because business taxes here are so high compared to anywhere in the United States that any kind of a corporate tax cut is certainly going to help, particularly our small business, which we just discussed on our other show, the 12th District, the other day. So I think it's got some merit. I think we'll have to see the final version, but they better pass something. But I just want to see them get back to health care. And I hope that they put some of the healthcare pieces in there. The individual mandate coming out would be a big relief to a lot of people. And if they can get that in the tax reform package and get a piece that works good, it'll be a big win for these guys. They need one.
Kerry Condata joining us here on NCW Live News. Of course, your new program, the 12th District, has taken off. I've watched a couple of the programs and some interesting guests.
We've had some great interviews, and of course it's on demand now, so you can go back and look at the early shows. We're getting better. The early shows were a little rough, but they're getting better, and we've got some great ones coming up. We've got Bitcoin coming up, discussion on Bitcoin. The Small Business Show will be out in a week or two, and then we're going to have some fun and review some of these shows at the end of the month. And of course, we go live to Olympia, which is really going to be exciting. You'll get direct live reports every week from Olympia in the session.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you for joining us, Kerry, with an update, and hey, good luck to you going forward.
Thank you so much. Good to be with you.
You bet. I'm Steve Hare for NCW Live News.